The market is literally setting records, and we have Jerome Powell and Donald Trump bickering on national television. You honestly cannot make it up. So, with the market rising up and shooting up to new highs, why are we seeing Jerome Powell refuse to cut interest rates and Donald Trump mock him in front of millions of people? We're going to go into all of this, but first, let's get into the stock market setting a 3-month streak, now seeing 31% increase since April of this year. We're witnessing one of the best 3-month rallies in history, folks. That is not just me saying all of this. And on top of that, we've got some very, very interesting, I'll call it political theater going on with Donald Trump and Jerome Powell, where they had this great hard hat clip, which I'll dive into here so you could hear it from themselves, of them literally bickering on live television.
It looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2.
This came from us.
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added.
So they're literally bickering, and Jerome Powell is scrambling on national television for all of this. And on top of it all, Donald Trump has been honestly going at Jerome Powell every single day in the media, tweeting at him, writing posts on Truth Social, and now this. It's been a very interesting dynamic, to say the very least, and it seems like there's turns literally at every single corner with all of this. So with the market now setting highs, why is Donald Trump getting on to Jerome Powell with all of this? Well, if we look at the overall economy right now, we look at the S&P 500 today, the past 5 days, it's up 1.3%. Year to date, it's not great, right? Because we are seeing this big dip here. But from the market lows of this year, we are seeing a 31% increase, even though it's only an 8.32 increase right now. Of course, we're looking at market bottom and market top, but Trump has been pushing for Jerome Powell to cut interest rates, and he's honestly refusing to do it. And we're going to get into whether or not I think that's a good idea or not here in a minute. But Trump basically going at Jerome Powell publicly, mocking him, calling him too late, pal, you name it. Well, President Donald Trump expressing the confidence in the Fed Reserve will start lowering interest rates a day after he met with Jerome Powell. The budget direction, Russell Voigt, kept up the heat on the Fed's renovation project, pushing the case for a review while pressing for lower interest rates. So all of this, right? They're looking at, hey, the Fed is going under massive renovations for their project, and we think that Jerome Powell and the Fed should cut interest rates. We're happy to give all of these renovations. We're happy to go through the process with Jerome Powell and everything. But what we aren't happy about is the fact that Powell is not cutting interest rates. So we need to continue to look and monitor this and see why we are seeing the potential of these interest rates honestly just not even coming down at this point. So with that, let's keep on going into why there are some major takeaways from Trump's visit to the Federal Reserve building with Jay Powell and company. So the 4 takeaways, at least according to Fox News here, is that the tour of the major renovation project and building was met with anticipation as the fate of the Fed Reserve Chair remains uncertain. Trump is still not going to fire Powell. Look, I mean, it's been good political theater, and I think everybody's been tracking this back and forth, but firing Jerome Powell would just set an unnecessary poor precedent, right? No president has done this previously, and then all of a sudden we would start to see presidents want to do this. It's the same precedent that we saw when people were talking about impeaching Donald Trump in his last, presidential 4-year period, right? When he was president from 2016 to 2020, all of the Democrats came out of the woodworks wanting to impeach Donald Trump. Well, what did we see from 2020 to 2024? The same thing happened. The Republican Party was wanting to impeach Joe Biden. Now, whether you agree with either of those or not, it's a bad precedent to set. Same thing with the Federal Reserve, which is supposed to be allegedly impartial here. So I've said this from the beginning that I don't think that it should be, but I think that we will see this start to escalate. And then what is the second? Trump in arguing over the estimated cost of the building. And the interesting thing is, a part of this theater, Donald Trump came strapped. He came with the piece of paper. He knew that there was going to be pushback there. So why did he do that? He's essentially publicly embarrassing Jerome Powell with all of this. So, seeing this go forward, well, it's interesting, right? There's going to be a lot of takeaways from that. And this image is essentially going to live forever. And Donald Trump is very in tune with how these things go about. So him understanding that, hey, you know what, catching Jerome Powell off guard, essentially alphaing him in a certain sense, well, it's not a good look for the Fed chair, to say the very least. Number 3, Trump dislikes the project but wants to get it done. Hey, you know what? As a real estate guy, I think Donald Trump can appreciate, hey, this needed to be some sort of renovation. But I also see it from his perspective as well. He's been looking to cut and slash government spending. And so Jerome Powell saying, oh, you know what? We can't cut interest rates, but we're dumping $3.1 billion into this renovation project. Something's not adding up here. So I think that this is essentially part of it, right? Donald Trump had Doge. Whether or not that worked or not, I mean, that's beside the point. But what he is seeing is that the U.S. debt just continues to grow, and it grows at a rapid pace. Look, the Doge clock is still not rising quite as big, but this $37 trillion, it was literally $37 trillion not too long ago, and now we're sitting at $148 million. So this keeps going, right? And it's not stopping anytime soon. So what's the last point here? It's that Trump denies there's tension, but pushes Powell to lower interest rates, which I think is very interesting, right? Because if you watch that clip, there's very clearly tension between the two. He was coming at him, right? Everybody on the internet is saying they're openly grilling Jerome Powell in his face at the Federal Reserve building. I mean, these clips are just, incredible from all this. I'm not going to play the entire thing, but there's, absolutely crazy. What are all these overruns about? He's literally going through and telling them all that. So the tussle on all that and all the headlines, even though Donald Trump says that there is no tensions, quite frankly, just show that there are tensions. And despite what Trump is saying, buddy, there are tensions in here. So make sure you guys are smoking that like and that subscribe button with the bell notifications, because we are not finished here yet. And I'd love to see that chat blowing up, because we've got 4, maybe 5 days until a little over 4 days, maybe closer to 5 days, where we will see whether or not the Fed is going to cut interest rates. Well. I don't think we're going to cut interest rates anytime soon, at least according to this, right? And the closer we get to this decision day, the more accurate it gets, right? So what we're seeing is the potential of an interest rate cut. The potential of that happening is 2.6%. So potential might be overblown. Now, why is Jerome Powell not doing that? I show this literally every single time, but the Dixie, right? 97.69. Nice. But we are not seeing that rise up. Look, we're seeing a little bit of a good day, up 0.18, but 97 is not a good place for the strength of the dollar. We want to see that over 100, right? We already went over how the market's doing, but if you look at the way the consumer is essentially looking right now, well, it deteriorated in June by 5.4 points, falling to 93, comparatively to the 98.4 in May, which everybody was talking about. Hey, consumers are actually getting more confident with the way things are going. So how is the consumer strength? The sentiment is improved recently. However, it remains below last year's levels and historical average, indicating some lingering concerns. While spending on some discretionary items like travel remains strong, consumers are also showing a tendency to economize in other areas, including a mixed or indicating a mixed picture. And on top of it, job growth, right? I've been talking to you guys all about the job market data because there's so many different studies with all of this. One of the jobs data says, hey, we're doing just great. The market is being the best it's ever been. This 3-month period, absolutely crushing it. But some of the jobs data shows, hey, we need to revise all this. Like 3 months later, everything's all peaches and daisies until you get to brass tacks. And then 3 months later, you got to change some things, right? So we're seeing that deteriorate. And then are companies actually hiring? Because the jobs are one thing, but if nobody is actually hiring, well, that's when we're going to see some problems. And it looks like, at least according to AI here, that we are not seeing anything related to a strong economy when it comes to hiring. So I think that, we're going to start to see some of these underlying effects really come to the surface. Right. So it is going to be an interesting economy. And we've got the political theater of Donald Trump literally jawing at Jerome Powell here, saying whether or not, hey, we're going to be good. You know what? Powell's going to cut interest rates. But the CME group is generally fairly accurate, and they are not even close to projecting a cut. So with all of this, make sure you guys are smoking that like and hitting that subscribe button, telling a friend to tell a friend. I want to see the chats on these blow up here pretty quickly. And I know that 95% of you guys that watch this channel are not subscribed. So help me get to that 1K. We finally passed the quarter, 250. Now let's accelerate it up, boys and girls. Let's get this thing pumping. And I appreciate you guys all for coming. And I'll see you at the next one.